So I also, so I took that to heart. When I spoke to smart people, I love smart people. I love older people when I was little, right? And it was one of those things where when you listen, like listening is another really important skill, right? You might
100%.
not have it as a trait, but you could have it you can develop it as a skill. And when you're listening, you always get the right answer to the question that's being asked. When you don't listen, you don't have you've lost all track of the question, right? So in my question, it was why do I have a lot of friends, but why do I feel lonely?
All right, welcome back, everybody. I'm Matt Rosenthal, and this is Digging In. If you're new to the show, I do this show weekly because I want to help you reach your potential, right? I want to inspire you, I want to motivate you, and I want to educate you. And the way that I am able to do that is by bringing guests on the show that have tremendous experience, that are amazing people, and that they just add value by sharing their stories and talking about their ups and downs and their life's, the successes and the failures and the lessons learned. And today we've got an amazing guest on, and he is going to talk about exactly that. In fact, we just spent 15 minutes talking about some amazing things, and I'm really excited. So let me just give you a quick background on Francisco. Francisco, I want you to jump in. I don't want to say this wrong. Pronounce your last name exactly as you like it said.
Oh, Tonarely.
All right, Francisco. I was going to say it like that, but just making sure. So Francisco Tonarely. And so he's got, decades worth of experience in marketing, in branding, in building businesses, in being an entrepreneur. He's worked for companies on his way up, such as, let's see what we got here. I gotta do that again. Hold on, I lost my place, Francisco. Hold on, pick up right there. Give me 3 seconds. I lost your companies. Companies such as Stock Spirits Group USA, Seagram Spirits and Wine Group, Pepsi Cola International, Colgate Palmolive, Bacardi International. His experience is just tremendous. So with that, and with that background I just gave you, we know he's going to drop some tremendous information on us today. So Francisco, welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure.
All right. So I want to jump back in where we left off a few minutes ago, and we were talking about loyalty. We were talking about how to take care of people that I guess came along the way with you. Just kind of pick up there. Let's go back there.
Yeah. So basically, when you're starting out your career, the most important thing that I found is, we really have to be collaborative. And one of the things that I admire is, like, I'm still really good friends with my first bosses, and that was over 35 years ago. And my first boss, he was like, this is like Colgate Palmolive, starting out in marketing and brand management. And I've always been, for me, you could never say, even at a very young age, it can't be done. Because for me, that was like the wrong thing to say, because that's exactly what I would do. And then either I would learn it was the wrong thing to do, or it would turn out right. So at a
how far back do you remember that? How far back do you remember feeling like that? Being a little kid?
Well, yeah, since I was, there were stories that I was with my mother the other day with my sister's birthday.
Yeah.
And it was my brother and sister in a family picture. And you see me on the side looking at them, and they're like saying, what the hell is he planning next? To bother his siblings, So I've always been a pain. I've always been rebellious. And then I would say, oh, you guys never loved me. My mother would go, no, we did. But you were just really difficult, but in a good way. In a good way.
So you were a free thinker, so you had your own way of thinking. You had your own, I guess in a way, if we talk about that time in your life for a while, maybe it connects to everything you did as you went on to be success professionally.
Yeah, and it was one of those things where, when we were talking about this, like in school, I was rebellious, but in a really good way. And like I tell my kids, if I got in trouble, it was for fun stuff. In the fourth grade, the principal would call me in, after school, I was going to be in trouble. And I had just modeled for a book about an Iranian boy that was a goat herder, right? And I just gotten the books. So I took my book and I took it to the principal. And I said, oh, I got you a present. And she started laughing. She goes, no, you didn't. I'm just from what I recall.
Yeah,
She
yeah.
goes, no, you just don't want to be in trouble, but it was just fun things, and like I tell my kids, I said, while you're growing up, you do things because it's the right thing to do, and it's a good reflection on you. Don't say, "Oh, I'm going to screw this up because I'm going to get back at you." No, anything that reflects on the person is a reflection of the person, and you're only hurting yourself. And those are qualities that when we speak about self-esteem, and Dr. Rosemont, famous child psychologist, said, you have to feel good about yourself. And self-esteem, you can only get through achievement.
Now, I'm glad you brought that up. So do you find that you've always had self-esteem and you never struggled with that? Or did you find that you had to really work on it and build your own confidence over the years by having successes, little wins?
Listen, I've gone through the greatest periods of insecurity and the greatest challenges. And I've seen wonderful moments and great moments, and we want more of the latter than the former. But at the end, it's your ability to rise up.
Yeah.
And to manage it. If you don't have that self-esteem and if you don't have that self-confidence, because it's always going to get challenged. If you're living a normal life and you're living a responsible and respectful life, that's going to be challenged always. But if you don't have that sense of self-worth to tell somebody that you need help, to tell somebody that you want to be better, it's going to be tough. When I was 16 years old and we had just moved from New York to Puerto Rico, my father was transferred, it was for a job. And I was having a hard time with some people in school. And it was a Jesuit priest. And he goes to me, we're in the beach, we had just got in trouble from the night before from doing crazy stuff. So he and I are talking, and he goes, people really, really want to like you. But you've built this enormous wall around you, and we attribute it to, to change in culture, right? So it was,
makes sense.
so I took that responsibility. It was my fault. It wasn't anybody else's. It's like they say, if you have a problem with one person, 50-50, and you can keep going on, at the end, you have problems with three people, hey, you're the issue. So I also, so I took that to heart. When I spoke to smart people, I love smart people. I love older people when I was little, right? And it was one of those things where when you listen, like listening is another really important skill, right?
100%.
You might not have it as a trait, but you can develop it as a skill. And when you're listening, you always get the right answer to the question that's being asked. When you don't listen, you've lost all track of the question, right? So in my question, it was, why do I have a lot of friends, but why do I feel lonely? Well, you idiot, because you're a big pain in the ass. They want to like you, but you have this wall. So that wall came down really quickly.
It's interesting because everything you're saying, you have a lot of self-awareness, like very insightful. And they're talking about a young age too. And when at a young age, most people don't have that. I would expect that if you were having those troubles, you would have had them into your 20s and 30s, because that's what usually happens until you have a bad relationship or somebody at work really wakes you up. You had that happen as a young kid, and you changed it sounds like you made some changes.
Oh, completely. Yeah. And then for example, when I start working, right, I went to Fairfield University. I wanted to see what I wanted to do. I always knew that I liked marketing. It was, in my house, they always gave us the freedom. My father never said what you had to be. At first I thought I wanted to be a doctor. So I spent 2 weeks in a hospital. I loved cardiology, and I loved internal medicine. When I took the test back then, it says, you love medicine, but what you love is the aspect of the human aspect of medicine. So then from there, then they started further digging, and there was medicine and creativity. Right. But that was because I trusted the people that I went to, the people that were in charge of the school.
Right.
Right. So and I had a house and I had a home that was very, it was about you. it was never about pretending who you were. My father never pretended, he thought I screwed around too much, so at the end of the day was, and he was a very private person, but it was always helping you in terms of identifying where you thought you were going. So
That's
it
a
was always
really
key
unique way to
people at
grow up.
key times. Yeah.
That is really, I mean, that's a beautiful way to grow up. It sounds like, and that's,
Well,
I don't
it
know.
challenges.
Say it again.
No, it had its challenges. It wasn't definitely not like so definitely not. It was a tough household. I mean, but at the end, looking back, right? Because this is the beauty of life. When you look back and you can find more good than challenges or bad periods.
It's a beautiful way to look at it. I just want to go back a sec. You were talking about listening and how important it is. And you're right. Most people don't listen. And I'm just curious what your thoughts are. The other side of not listening is the need to speak and the need to be the one talking, which I have found comes from, it seems to me like it's people who feel like they need to seem like they know everything, like they have to present this false sense of self because they underneath it all, they're a little worried, they're a little scared because they really don't know. So they talk.
Yeah.
But to your point, you're right. It all happens when you're silent and when you're listening.
Yeah.
Have you found something similar where you notice you're in these conference rooms, you're in meetings, and there's always those people that they have to be the ones with the voice.
Or the last word.
Or the last word.
Right? Or like, for example, there's people that are terrified of silence, right? So it's that nervous chatter. So you're in a car, you're driving, you don't feel like saying anything, right? And some people just cannot shut up.
And it's okay to be quiet.
And it's yes. And because, like, for example, I love Law and Order, right? But it's that I put on, and they go, "You've seen that episode 50 times." I said, "No, it's 61." But the point is, I'm listening to myself. I'm not watching the show. I'm hearing it, but I'm not listening to the show. I'm listening to me. It's all those things that I'm working on, and it's just the thinking. And I think that's really important. And then to your point, when you're at a dinner table, right? And it's always who are those people that are vying to be the most important and smartest guy at the table, right? And then those are the ones that are, you say two words, it's like you haven't even heard what I was asking. I'm not
They're
saying
not listening.
I'm not saying that I'm right. I'm throwing out a question. And everybody, I mean, when I ask a question, I usually have, like my friends sometimes joke with me about being Google, because I'm always looking for, I love to learn, right? Right. So if I ask a question, I read it. And if I don't know it, I would always say, this is what I read. And in today's age, it's like, let me tell you where I read it just to make sure that it's true, or at least we can always question the source, right?
For sure.
And then that, so in work, it was always, this is what I know. This is the category that we're in. This is what I understand. These are the points that we have to address to see if it's something, if the mission's going to be worthwhile, right? But listening, and trust me, if you go back to if my friends were here listening, they go, listen, my nickname is Pachi. They go, Pachi, you might have started listening a couple of years ago, but stop. But no, but I've always been a good listener, I think. And there's a great quote about, it's not the answers, but the quality of the questions.
There you go. There you
Right.
go.
So when I wrote to you that I said that I sometimes I get wordy or get into the weeds, sometimes because I wanted to capture so much that I would lose myself. The good intention, but
Hey, look, you have a lot to say. That's actually a perfect segue. There, you have so much expertise in so many areas. Like I had said earlier, with marketing and everything that you've done, that there's a story to tell there. And I know we don't have enough time to tell probably every highlight that you've got to tell, but you've been a leader and you've been in business and I'm sure you've been a mentor and you've been a manager and you've been successful at rebuilding businesses, right? And markets. Take me through, just tell me in your eyes what you see. What is marketing to you? That's a broad question, but I know you're working with a product right now. So maybe use an example, put it in some sort of context. But what do we say to somebody who doesn't even understand that they're missing the boat with their business? They could be 100x, 10x, 50x, whatever, but they don't understand the power of marketing.
Right. The best way that I can explain it is the definition back in 1977 when I chose it as my major. And it's the delivery of a product or service from concept to consumer, right? So the most important thing, if we're focused on marketing, it's really being extremely humble, having great questions, but understanding what it is the consumer thinks he wants, because he doesn't know what he wants. He's going to be speaking from a position of opportunity or problem, right? He might want to clean a surface, but he doesn't know that he needs it, that it can now smell good. He doesn't need all the abrasives in a very tough formula because the surfaces have changed, right? And that was my first project at Colgate. Well, my second, right? We created and launched Fabuloso, which is that liquor that you find everywhere. Right?
Yeah.
So what's true today is, like, when I've consulted, is I like to speak with examples, right? Because there's too many people that are great on theory, but haven't done anything, right? So it's that great humility to listen and understand the consumer situation, understand what it is that you perceive. Oh, no, let me go back. What it is that you like as a marketer, as a future marketer, right? Or a business that you're in, what are you passionate about? And then how does that address what the opportunity is with this individual, right? And then from there, you work it back. The biggest disfavor that anybody can do to a business is when they do the P&L and they do all the projections and they haven't even seen what the value grid looks like. And understanding what's that fair market price, what's that fair value, or what's that great value to the consumer, or if it's B2B to that business, and then see if you can afford it, right? And then if you can afford it, well, now if it's doable. And today's world is, where can you really make it worthwhile from an investor point of view? And is this business long lasting? So it's going back to that, who is that end consumer, and then working that back.
So, and the funny thing, it sounds like what you're saying, even in that process, you might find that, or one might find that what they thought was a good product or there was a market for, they're wrong.
Yeah.
They're wrong.
Right.
Then they have to pivot. Then what do they do?
Then depending on the category, you might have a new opportunity come up. Because you might have been, like I was reading this morning about knowledge and imagination, right? And knowledge is what you know, and imagination what it can be. And it's about everything and all the possibilities, right? So let's say in a drink, and you're looking at, well, what's going to be that next big drink, right? When you've gone through this process, you've looked at supply chains, you've looked at all different the operational capabilities, you looked at talent, but you have your mind set on one product. Well, maybe when you look at that product, well, it doesn't have the occasions. You can't make it at that price, but there's maybe something else can come in. Maybe there's something else I can do. I work with an Italian beer. They have a wonderful brewery in Italy. And now we're thinking, well, wait, that same brewery can make a hard seltzer. Right now hard seltzer is extremely crowded.
Yeah.
There's not enough
Really
capital to bring it out. But if you can make money in the supply chain, if you're extremely efficient, well, then maybe it's about looking geographically for other opportunities in other areas that you haven't looked at. So it's how can you pivot most effectively?
That's it. It's how can you pivot? And that's, the ultimate pivot possibly. And think about your entire career. Would you say the ultimate pivot, which nobody had a choice, was what happened in the past year and a half, right? Everything changed, including the supply chain. So now what do you do?
Right.
Nobody can prepare for that.
No, and I'm still working on it.
Oh, you don't have the answer yet?
Listen, I'll have one tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day. No, but for example, when I look at the last 20 months, it was terrible, right? But like I told my colleagues, I said, everybody's looking at this problem. Everyone's complaining. Everyone's developing all these excuses. That's their problem. Our problem is to find out what's that opportunity that we can work around. How do we become, being a new brand? How do we get more exposure in the e-commerce? It'll be difficult, but let's learn about e-commerce. I had to let go of people at the end of the day, but I hired a great sales company, with a national footprint. So in time of great distress is a time when if you rethink and you have new ideas and new opportunities will arise.
It's funny, you just mentioned hiring a new sales organization. Along the way, many years ago, I was CFO for a company in New Jersey. And I recall, this was back in 2008. And you remember when the market crashed and everything was terrible in 2008, 2009. And they were in the construction business, sort of. They were a supplier of a certain service that was used in construction. I remember walking into the owner of the company one day, sitting down in his office and saying, listen, I've lowered expenses as much as I can. And I mean, we were barely going to make payroll. It was unbelievable. And there was one expense left, and it was a very big expense. It was his monthly expense at a particular restaurant that he went to, where he did all of his networking and all of his meeting new clients and meeting existing clients. And it was right outside New York City. Yeah. And it was a big number he spent there every month. It was still to this day, it's a huge number. And I looked at him and I said to him in the nicest way possible, could you cut back a little bit? And after several words that began with F and a lot of screaming and yelling at me, he said something that I never forgot. Sell. He goes, stop worrying about, you lower your expenses. You have to be smart, but you got to sell. You got to raise that top line revenue. And so in times like this, we have to figure out how we sell differently, how we reach different people, and how we show them value so that they're buying from us. And what I'm hearing is the same thing from you. You didn't say that, but you went out and got a new sales organization in the toughest of times. It always comes down to sales and marketing. But
there's a big one that I would push back on.
Tell me.
Loyalty.
Of course.
Right. But then there, instead of spending whatever he was spending there, I would make sure that I would have the most loyal people, because everybody knew about the problem. But if I could, because I can sell, but how do I give them confidence that I will meet payroll? That they are the most important asset. Because at the end of the day, you're not going to, out of 10 dinners, you'll convert one. But there's there's 9 others that are going to cost you a lot of money. So I would be more targeted on my meetings. I would see how much I could save and how much I could incentive, maybe taking the incentive levels to these loyal, this loyal group, and saying, you know what, I know how hard it is. I'll do my sacrifice to see, because I can't convert every lunch or every meal, but I can help you convert every sale if you're more incentivized and your family's more at ease, that you have more money to make sure that they're safe, that they're being kept safe.
That's right.
And that would be the only.
No, and it's so critical to success, and even especially when you're pivoting in times like what's happening now, with it's so hard to find good people right now.
Yep.
The market is really it's out of whack right now. Yeah. And loyalty is more important than ever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one thing I want to get out of this conversation where we communicate, if we communicate nothing else other than having a good conversation, having some fun,
Sure.
there are going to be people that are going to take this in that I want to get across some sort of like bullet pointed list of takeaways. And I want to see if you can rattle these off, if they come right to mind. Okay, you ready?
Great.
5 undeniable keys to successful execution. 5 keys to executing successfully. What comes to mind?
Know where you're going, believe in yourself, find great people along the way, invest a great deal of time, and share it at the end.
Got to drop the mics moment right there. That's perfect. That is perfect. So which one is the standout to you? If you had to pick one, of those.
You got to believe in yourself.
Amen.
Yeah.
And it's funny because that goes back to what you said early on. That as far as the way you grew up, and just it all stays with you. It all stays with you. So now you bring that to all these organizations you've worked for, and I want to know, what at this point, what is it that you're passionate about? What product? What is it that you're working on that you're most passionate about?
Well, I started a project back in 2015 with the I'm sorry. I got a call from a very close friend of mine that I met in year 2000, when I was a global group head at Seagram. And he said to me, I was having dinner and they came and presented me this brand. It's a cognac and coffee. I want to see if you like it. And I said, you know what? I never say no. Why don't you send it to me so I can try it and ask my friends what they think about this? So I started doing my homework at that point to see what the market for cognac, what the market for coffee was, for the market of both products, and the occasions. I did all the due diligence, right? Who was that consumer? What did that consumer think he want? What were they currently drinking? And if there was a space based on occasion and type of person that would embrace this. So started working on it. I saw that there was a great opportunity. There was growth in category. What I like in business is basically our super premium brands, because that gives you the financial strength to handle difficult times, right? If you're basically a standard brand and you need to scale it up really quickly, there's very little margin. So I found all those things that I was looking for. It was unique. There was growth. There was a consumer. There was an appetite for cocktails, other uses. So it got to a point where there was enough good in it that we started bringing in other people, right? And we brought in some, the ex-president and COO of Coca-Cola. We brought in a restaurant entrepreneur from New York. We brought investors of the highest magnitude, which I can't say on the air, but Carol can tell you.
Okay.
Right?
You brought in some powerful people to back it.
Right. And what we did is, going back to what I was saying earlier, we market tested the brand. Right. So and it goes back to, so I have what the brand, the knowledge, the focus on the category, makes financial sense. The passion to package that and then to sell in a collaborative mindset, to say to people that trust you because of your reputation and say, you know what, this thing can work. Then you go to the market and you go to the consumer, the bartenders, the mixologists and bar owners and say, what do you think of this concept? Right. And no matter how much we loved what we presented, they came back and said, yeah, you're almost there. And almost there meant that I have a new bottle, I have a new formula, I have better attributes. There were things that were both emotional and functional that work much better. Everything in the product, what you were asking before about marketing, for me, everything has to make sense. It's like a person, right? So our product, the packaging had to make sense. The label had to say who you are. The liquid had to satisfy a desire, right? So, and then everything there, like when I would make the presentation to the investors, I'd say, take out your phones and your computers, get online, and if there's anything you think I'm saying that's not true, please Google it. You know, and they all looked at me like saying, "You're sick." And I said, "No. This is Google proof, and trust me, if I'm saying anything here that's wrong, you shouldn't invest." You know, and that was very, very serious. When we got into raising more capital, there's a very, very prestigious house on Wall Street, and the CEO is an investor in our business. So he sent out his team. There were 5 people looking at, you know, our presentation and drilling it. We were 3 hours on the phone. You would think that they were buying a huge company. You know, at one point, the chief investment officer says, "Listen, I'm really sorry, but I need to go through this." And I said, "No, like I've said before, if there's anything that I can't answer, you should invest." Yeah, and that was the spirit in the letter.
How long did that process take? Start from the very beginning.
It took 4 years, 3.5 years.
4 years. And what was the end result?
We got the money. The brand right now is in 7 US states, in Paris, Lyon, and Bordeaux, and in London in the UK. We're still, I mean, COVID set us back, but we found a new sales company, a national sales company. We have a new agreement with the second largest distributor in the country. We have the best bars, or we had in rebuilding the best bars in New York, in Paris, in London, in Atlanta, in Dallas, Austin, and Houston. In Miami, we're building now, launched in July 1st with the distributor, RNDC. So, you know, the projections, I'm extremely optimistic. I have a very, very tight hold on the market and understanding if it works, we build. If it doesn't work, let's find out what does. But let's anticipate instead of react.
You know, it's really interesting when you're talking about a specific product, and I looked at it, and frankly, it looks like something that, I mean, it looks beautiful. I haven't tried it, but I 100% now intend to. I'm a fan of
Thank you.
spirits, but you're making, what's coming to mind as you're talking right now are people like, there was a brand, Skinny Girl. Remember the Skinny Girl brand?
Yep.
I forget what her name was, but
Bethany
Frankel. Yeah, Bethany
Frankel.
Frankel. And I don't know, she sold that for $100 million or something. And you know, Sammy Hagar used to be the
Yep.
singer of Van Halen.
Yeah.
He has his tequila. I think it's called Cabo Wabo?
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah.
And it's then you have George Clooney, who has his tequila.
Yep.
Is that Casamigo? Maybe I'm thinking.
Casamigos. Yep.
Right. I mean, this is big money, and they've got. And when I've tried each of those products, by the way. And the funny thing is, I get made fun of for it. I happen to like the Skinny Girl stuff.
Yeah.
It actually, it surprisingly has a nice flavor. But I don't know, did they really invent anything that's so unique and so special? But one thing I can tell you is, one thing that you, I'm sure, could tell me is that the packaging is beautiful. The branding is great. The voice that they put out there is there's something special about it, and they've found a way to take something that's been around and make it different.
Right.
Right. But what you're talking about, I don't think it's not the same thing.
No.
Because your product is a combination of two different things, correct?
Yep.
And it's unique. So if
Very.
they could do that, what I'm processing is, my God, what are you guys going to do?
You know, they have star power, right? They have star power. like The Rock. I love The Rock and Terramana and what they've been able to do. And for me, that's my gold standard. You know, when I'm doing something, I go to The Rock and his strategy, right? Because one of the things that I look for, there's a lot of people that are getting into the business, and a lot of people look for shortcuts. And some shortcuts have huge dividends, right? When I'm playing the long game, and for me, I can say that we've done everything right. You know, you have a brand that every drink is going to taste as good or better than the last. You have my personal guarantee, you know, that we are from Finbois, coming up from a single estate, craft distilled from the Tardy family. You know, I can tell you every piece of this, right? And I have a personal commitment. And for me, like, my dream is that the day that I pass, you know, my kids and my grandchildren, you know, see my brand, something, oh my God, that's whatever they're going to call me as a grandfather, right? But that's what I've built. That's what I want to build.
Do you want to
Right?
share the name of the brand?
Yeah, Grand Brulo.
Okay, I'm not sure if I heard you say it, but I wanted to.
Oh,
'Cause
no, I'm respecting, but yeah, Grand Brulo. It's a VSOP Cognac, minimum 4 years in barrel, and then we blend and age it with coffee.
Thank you. I wanted to hear you talk about it. That's what I was trying to get at.
Yeah.
Because I just everything about, I mean, from the website to everything I've looked at this about it, it's very classy. I mean, it is just, it's like, I can't wait to taste it, actually.
But
It's classy.
but you know what's really neat is, like, when people have asked me about the brand and who's it for, and I said, you know, it's like the person, you know what you stand for, but you can be in jeans, you can be in shorts, you can be, you know, in a tacky bathing suit, whatever it is you are, but it's still who you are, right? So Grand Brulo, it's that affordable, classy, clever brand, right? Putting some words together.
And that
Right.
is exactly how it feels to experience looking at it. And even like you said before, the bottle, the color choices, you can feel it. I mean, you really can
Yeah.
take that in just from visually, from seeing it.
Well, the colors came from a bar owner from New York, from a group of them, right? And they basically love black and gold.
Yeah.
You know, it never would have been my first choice, but it made sense coming from people that were going to pour it, buy it, and build it, right? And it
Look,
turned
it
out
feels
well.
like it works. It's
Absolutely,
beautiful.
yeah. The bottle, when looking at the bottle design, I love the bourbon bottle looks,
That's right.
right? So I love the shoulders,
Yeah.
and it was masculine, but it was also attractive to females. Another bar owner, a mixologist, said to us, well, you know, the bottle that you have is very pretty, but if you put it on table service, they can tip over. And once a bottle tips over in a club, they'll never take it again. So this one was much better. So it was both emotionally and functionally perfect.
I'm
There was
glad you're
another
getting
reason.
into this. I'm glad you're going this deep into this. This is what I really wanted to hear. This is especially the emotional side of, you know, because we really are appealing to somebody's feelings, and right, when you're talking about loyalty to a brand, why is it that I would take a sip of this and all of a sudden be connected? Why is it that when I walk into a bar, let's talk about vodka for a sec. There's all these vodkas I could choose. I happen to look for something called Elite. Most people don't carry it. And if I can't get that, then I go to the old standards, Grey Goose or Kettle One.
Right.
But I don't want to go to the other. And why? Why is that? Something happened many, many, many years ago where I got hooked on Grey Goose. I don't mean hooked on, I mean the brand. And
Yeah.
it's true for anything. Jeans. Why do we wear a pair of jeans? Why do we have to have this particular brand?
Well,
You know?
yeah, and then, like, to your point, I hate to use the word safe because it's not being safe. It's that you trust it. You trust the brand.
Trust it. I know what to
I-
expect.
Exactly. I've worn the same pair of loafers since 1974, right? And they're really
You haven't
good.
worn them out yet?
No, I really do have some that are worn out. And if it wasn't for the podcast, I could show you. I mean, the leather, I mean, it finally gave out, but I mean, they're insane. They're, you know, they're old classics,
Right.
right? So for me, like I tell my wife, I've been dressing the same before she met me. You know, it's that style that I like. I don't need to wear it's like I always say, I don't need to go to a trendy restaurant. I need to go to a place where I like the food and I love the people.
That's
You know,
it.
if
Your
I don't love
version
the
of
people-
Cheers.
Exactly. You know,
That's it. It's about comfort. And I love just the way you were describing the bottle and the thought you put into it, because on the other side of that, somebody's going to connect with that, and that's going to become a member of your tribe.
Yep.
And and they're going to be loyal to that. And we don't need everybody to be loyal, just the people that connect with it, the people that get it.
sure. Yeah, and brands can have different voices, right? So they were
Tell me
asking me
more
this
about that.
morning, what's the perfect glass for Grand Brulo? I said, well, it depends on what they're drinking and who's drinking it. You know, if you have to focus, there's three. There's a rocks glass. The rocks glass is for the straight on the rocks or a classic, right? You have the snifter if you're smoking a cigar or after dinner, and you have the espresso martini, right? So at the end of the day, depending on the occasions, and whoever gravitates towards that, Grand Brulo can play with them.
And you know, just that espresso martini, you just make me think of that's such a popular drink in so many restaurants, especially, and I go to certain restaurants. It's not for everybody. Like my wife, if I ask her to take a sip, I'm not going. There's no way, because when she hears espresso, she thinks she'll be up all night.
Right.
But
Sure.
the flavor of that drink, it's like silk. I know something about it. It's a beautiful flavor.
Yeah, and with Grand Brulo, here I'll do my pitch. But Grand
Give it to
Brulo,
me.
the 4.5 years of spirit, it's 80 proof. The coffee is Ecuadorian Robusta bean. Most people would say, well, why not Arabica? Arabica is 70% of the world global market. Robusta is 30%. The higher bitterness of Robusta worked better with the profile of a VSOP Cognac, right? So when you make that in an espresso martini, like a Paris bartender said, you don't need the coffee, you don't need the vodka. All you need is Grand Brulo. And if you want it a little sweetness, you can put in a little bit of cream and some vanilla and 2 drops of vanilla syrup, because you have everything else.
And that's it. Tell me something. What's the price point?
The mode would be $39.99. In Florida right now, it's around $37.99 so we're doing a big special there. But you can get it between $37.99 and $39.99.
I mean, that's perfectly priced.
Yeah, and in New York, it's $44. In London,
it
it's
is.
45 pounds, right? And so we maintain that super premium, but it's in our strategy. I respect Hennessy. I love their story. And I am below Hennessy because I can't afford to develop that story so quickly to go against them. So one of the things about me, it's very important, is I love my competition. I speak well of my competition. I embrace my competition. I like being with my like if I take a picture of Grand Brulo in a bar, you'll always see the brands there. And I say the people we stand with. Because at the end of the day, we're all part of a mission to give people the best selling drink. At the end, you have different preferences, but we're all about doing good for that person behind the bar and in front of the bar.
I asked you about what project you're working on, and I'm glad you went into such depth, because this to me is very intriguing. It's extremely interesting. And I don't get to hear very often, nor do many people, the story that you just told from start to finish about a development of a product from somebody at your level with your experience and the people that you're working with, how the backing happens and how the financing happens. I mean, people don't hear about that.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting. It's very valuable to people. So how would somebody who wants to get into this, let me ask you this way. Do you think it's a good time to get into the spirits business now with all the competition that's out there? You guys had a way to bring down the barriers because of basically who you guys are, who you guys know, the loyalty, but that's not everybody. Realistic. So is it a bad time to get in with something that's like a boutique type of approach?
Yeah. And let me go back for a second. What you were saying, I've had many, many, many sleepless nights in the past couple of years.
I'm sure.
So it's never easy. It always has tremendous challenges. And you throw COVID on top, it's really, really hard. But this is what I answer, like my son wants to develop a brand, right? And he and his friends. And I said, listen, the most important thing is that conviction that you have to make something happen. And then it's the focus and energy that you put into it to understand and define what needs to be done to get you to the starting gate, right? Because at the end of the day, it's never the right time to do anything in life.
It's true.
Ever, right? If you go back to 1980, there were too many vodkas. There were too many gins. There were too many rums. There were two players controlling the tequila. There were two players controlling the rum. Oh, it's a big boy game. No, you can never get in that distributor house. And it happens. You go, it's never ideal. What you look at are growth rates and what it is that you can do differently. And differently can imply your market selection. Everybody goes to the same 3 states in the US, right? What I tell people is look at the metropolitan areas. When I talk about California, I don't talk about California. I talk about Los Angeles County. I talk about in New York. I look at Boston. I look at cities. And within cities is there one place that's what's that barrier to entry? Is it easier in one versus another? Because when you look at things with such broad strokes, it becomes unaffordable. But the more you can target, the easier it might be. And if you're really effective in one area, well, all those areas are going to hear about you very quickly.
It's really good advice. When you mentioned a few minutes ago about the sleepless nights, it just reminds me that if you're building something and if you're developing something, or if you're just a business owner, you really can never take your foot off the gas, right? Unless you don't have a passion inside of you, or you're okay with becoming complacent. But has the hard work and sacrifice over all these decades and all the things you've done, and just by listening to where you've worked and the positions you've held, there's been a lot of hard work and sacrifice. Have you been able to balance that with family?
Not always. My wife knew me traveling, and she knew that I was passionate about my job. They're like this. I mean, they've had me at home now for a year and months, and my wife today goes, "Oh my God, I'm so glad you look so happy. You have on your suit, your nice shirt. Oh, it's so great to see you," because they all say that my face changes. I love to be home, but I have an energy that I need to be out in the field. I need to be meeting with people. I need to do it. And they know I love them, and I give quality time. And they've probably been sick of me for a year. So they're very happy to get me out, But no, it goes back to the beginning. What do you love? What's your passion? And then going back about life lessons, right? You really can't fake passion.
Absolutely not.
Right? And either you are or you're not. And some people, I guess, later on in life, and I knew some people just like to get out of their house. I love to be home. I'm always home on weekends. I travel Tuesday to Thursday. This is the first time I'm doing because I have to go visit one of my partners. But if not, I would be home on today's Monday. I would be home either Wednesday or Thursday morning. Normally be Tuesday to Thursday, because I'd like to be home, but I love to work. and I want to make this thing really successful.
Yeah. It's, I mean, it's really, it's a nice story because it sounds like you have been able to make it work. You hear stories of people, it's a lot. It's a lot to travel back and forth. It's a lot to, you're a creator, right? So it's a lot to be a creator. I guess if you have the right people around you that support you,
Yeah,
and support your creativity, you'll be all right.
yeah.
Or it
All
will be all
about,
right.
all about people, right? And bringing people, going back to the beginning, bringing people along. It
That's
should be a
right.
great ride.
That's right. Well, I'm gonna wrap this up because I believe you have to be somewhere. Um, I have a lot of questions actually. I could sit and chat with you for a few hours. I haven't even
You're
scratched
in
the
Boca?
surface. Huh?
Are you in Boca?
Yeah, well, I live in Delray, and my office I'm sitting here now is in Delray also.
Oh, we can have lunch when I'm back.
Where are you?
I live in Key Biscayne, Miami.
Oh, you're an hour. Oh, you know where I go all the time? I'm gonna cut this part out.
Yeah.
I go to there's a Ritz there.
Yeah,
Oh, my kids love that place. Sometimes we go for the weekend just to get out of here.
yeah. I live 2 blocks away.
Oh, no kidding. Well, now that you're mentioning Miami, so there's another place we like to go. Have you ever gone over to Fisher Island?
Sure.
That is my wife and I, our number one favorite place on this planet.
Yeah. I used to go there a lot because my brother was a member and my
Yeah.
friend was a member. So I haven't been there, I guess, in like 3 years. But the food, everything is spectacular.
It's
Sushi,
unbelievable, unbelievable. We, I don't belong there or anything. They have these bungalows where you can, rent them like a hotel room, I guess. And the only reason I am able to get there is because my American Express card, so that it gets me, I can book it through Amex,
yeah,
Amex Platinum. So we discovered the place about 5 years ago, and that's the place that she and I go. We don't bring our kids.
oh, I love it. Yeah,
It is so peaceful. The food
Yeah.
is ridiculous. We were just there about 4 or 5 weeks ago, and it's the thing is like places like that. And by the way, I got the number of the guy who runs the restaurant. He's going to come on and do an episode with me. He just came there from some other place, and listening to him talk when he came to our table and the way he treated us and the way he asked us questions and the way he was so interested in my wife and I was like, this is what it's about. This is like, that's the quality, you know?
yeah,
Anyway, yeah, we're very close. I would love to get together with you.
sure.
I'm gonna cut this out too, but real quick, have you ever heard of a company called Southern Glazers?
Sure.
So
Massive.
yeah, what?
Massive.
Yeah, they're massive. My wife's cousin Debbie, she's married to David Glazer. David's father, who died about 5 or 6 years ago, used to run the company, but his grandfather started it.
Yep.
So I've watched. He doesn't work. He's never worked since I've known him. It's about 20 years. David, he's the grandson. But it's interesting to watch him. He tells stories all the time about how they're growing and growing and growing. And it was actually just Glazers. I think about 3 years ago, they sold to part of it to Southern.
Yep.
And yeah, all I know is when that happened, I met his wife and said to my wife, it changed. I mean, they were very well off. She's like, everything just changed, like beyond exponentially beyond anything you could imagine. And what I love about it is the way David tells it. His grandfather started that from nothing. That's what I find. I love the stories of things being started from nothing. You know,
Pure hard work and vision.
that's it. Grit, determination, persistence. And you don't know anything about me, but I grew up with very little. My father died when I was 12, and I've built my own a nice little life for myself and my wife and my kids. But I guess I'd connect so much to the stories of people who are self-made and who just somehow figure it out and they navigate.
Right.
And what I find is that there is not anything that's by chance. There's no such thing as luck. And there is a GPS that does help guide people to just knowing right from wrong,
Right.
surrounding themselves with good people. The loyalty is a huge part of it. And anyway, I get off track, but I'd love to get together with you.
No. Yeah, no. And you see, when I grew up, my father just passed away a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
And his whole thing was about hard work, no shortcuts.
There is no shortcut to hard work.
Right?
You know what? The only if you try to shortcut hard work, all you're doing is prolonging it. What you're trying to do anyway.
Yep.
You know.
No, I really enjoyed it. I really, really enjoyed it, and truly worthwhile. And like you said, just flowed. And I'm very transparent. I think that came across.
You're easy to talk to. All right, I'm gonna cut this whole 5 minutes out because I was talking about a lot of unrelated stuff. I'm gonna do a little outro.
Okay.
And then I'll stop the record. I'll hit the stop button for the recording.
Okay.
All right. So Francisco, listen, thank you so much for joining me today. I mean, we could talk for hours. The information you have is invaluable. You should write a book, by the way. I mean, I'm not kidding. You should write a book if you haven't already. There's so many people out there that just need information, and it's up to people like you and anybody else out there who's willing to share their story to help other people at least have a guide, learn from somebody. So this episode could be a mentor to people, and I believe it will be, and I believe the word will spread. And congratulations on your product. It's a winner, and I'm happy for you.
Thank you.
I am going to finish by saying this. The show is intended to inspire people. It's intended to inform people. And hope is not a strategy. You've got to do the work. So Francisco, thank you again.